All right. Looks like we are live. Awesome. Hello, you guys. Happy Sunday. Sunday. Just checking a quick few settings. Make sure everything, all right. Looking good. Awesome. Hello, FM. Hey, Robin. Hi. Hey, guys. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're having a good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever in the world you might be. Hello, Chi-chan. Hello, Christy. Angie, Tracy, hi. Yay. Oh, hi, guys. Thank you so much for joining. I am excited to dive into the Q&A session. This is easily becoming my favorite day of the week. I mean, Sundays were already pretty awesome before, but yeah, they're quickly shaping up to be my absolute favorite time of the week. I love coming on here and doing this. I love hanging out with you guys. It is always a pleasure. Hey, guys. Hello, Priscilla. Hello, Kate. Hello, Dawn. Kim. Hi. David. Hello. Yay. Courtney. Hi. Oh, yay. We've got my favorites. We got my favorites coming on in. Good morning. Big hi from Australia. Hello. Thank you for joining. Good evening from Germany. Thank you for joining. Oh my goodness, we got international here. I love it. I love it. Fresh out of Fox forever. Oh, you win the username of the day. That is awesome. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here in just a moment. I like to give it a little bit to let people come on in, get settled, get sorted. Apologies for being a few minutes late, by the way. Yikes. We will get started here momentarily. Hey, John. Hi. Oh, this is going to be fun. I am excited. And I had somebody leave a question due to the fact that they weren't going to be able to make it today because time zones are a thing. Let me just make sure that I pull that up. And that goes without saying, if for any reason, if you're watching this live or after the fact, the pre-recording, if you're not able to make it to a live Q&A, if you leave the question either in the comments or shoot me an email, I will do my very best to try to answer those. So yeah. I feel like if you don't make it live that I can't get to you, I will do my best to try to get to as many people as possible. Thank you, Chi-chan. How's the snow you imagine? It's still coming down. It's still snowing. I'd show you guys. I can't move my desktop setup, but I'm looking at it right now. It's a lot of snow. It's a lot of snow. Whoops. Oh well. I'm having fun with it. All right. Let me just make sure. So I'm presuming that everybody can hear me okay and see me okay. Because I probably would have had some comments otherwise. So I think we're good on that front. Let's go ahead and dive in. We got a few number of people in here, and I know people will be coming and going as we get a move on. So yeah, again, thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you so much for being here. Again, I absolutely love this time of day. I love quickly turning into my favorite time of the week. A quick few announcements before we jump in and get started. For anyone who has missed it, I do have a one-on-one coaching promotion going on right now. There are still a couple spots left available. If anybody wants to jump on that, I've got all that information down in the description box. Currently, it is 30% off my 6-week package or 50% off my 12-week package. There are limited spots, and so they are going pretty quick, but there's still a couple left. If you want to jump on that, got all that info down below. I do have courses coming out this week with relation to quantum jumping, with mental diet, just a couple subjects that I know are really important to touch on. Those will be available. It was supposed to be this week. The blizzard kind of threw a wrench in things for a few days, but those are almost finished. So definitely be on the lookout. I will make an announcement both on YouTube and my Facebook page when those are available. If you have purchased the manifestation bundle, then you will get those included. But that said, if you want to get your hands on the bundle, I would do it within the next couple days because the price is going to go up a little bit when the release of those courses. So if you want to lock it in at that price now, jump on that. Again, all that is information below. And all that said, let's go ahead and jump on in, because I am ready to get to some questions and answers. Oh, and I will try to get to as many people as I can. If for some reason I miss your question or something happens, the chat jumps around a lot. So if for whatever reason I miss it, I do apologize. Bear with me. Try to get to as many people as possible. So with that said, let's go ahead. Let me take a drink real quick. I need some caffeine. It's been a busy morning. Fresh out of Fox Forever. I seriously love your username. I have a question. Lately, I have been having thoughts about third parties. How do you stop them? Thanks. Yeah, intrusive thoughts can be absolutely just the most annoying thing ever. And certainly, yeah. I guess when it comes to intrusive thoughts, the first thing that we want to remember, it's not always easy to remember. It's not always easy to not react to them, but if we can, we want to observe them. We want to acknowledge it, because it's all just feedback. But we don't need to latch onto it. We don't need to get consumed by fear of like, oh God, I just had this thought. Now it's doomed to manifest. Thoughts don't really work like that. um, but if you find that you're having a thought coming in persistently and it seems like you're not able to get rid of it, I mean, first I would do some reflection. I mean, those typically stem from those thoughts and fears of third parties stem from the fear of competition or the fear of not being good enough, not feeling chosen, and things of that sort. So I would imagine something. I would create an imaginal act, or create a scenario, something that can tap into a feeling of being chosen, right? Of the being the one, basically, and really press into that. And also it comes back to remembering everyone as you pushed out, which again, it can be a difficult concept to always keep in mind or remember, especially since we are very much deluded by this illusion of separation and people outside of us having power and abilities that we're helpless to do anything about. That's not how this works. Competition is not a thing unless we make it a thing. And basically what that means is that everyone is going to show up and manifest. Everyone is going to appear and act on the ways that we assume and believe them to act. So with that understanding that we ultimately have the final say, there is no such thing as competition. So, I mean, the first thing that I would do with intrusive thoughts about a third party scenario, first revise it, get rid of it first thing foremost. Second thing, I would, really press into an imaginal act that implies chosen, that implies that you are the one, you are good enough, and any of that sort. If you haven't already, I would create an imaginal scene and press into that. And also maybe, continuing to test the law when it comes to other people, like building your faith in everyone as you pushed out. That is going to help tremendously with battling any sort of fears of competition or anything of that sort. Yeah. So revise, press into the imagination, and testing the law when it comes to other people and everyone as you pushed out. Good evening from Germany. Would you ever tell someone not? Oh, this is actually a good question. Hello, Kitty. Would you ever tell someone not to manifest someone anymore and to just let them go instead? Would you ever tell someone not to manifest somebody and to just let them go instead? So, if there was a circumstance, if there was an instance where if you are feeling burned out, if you're feeling complete overwhelm, if you're feeling like you're hitting a wall constantly and it's creating a lot of frustration for you, what I would absolutely tell somebody is take a break from trying to manifest. Give yourself a minute to sort of recharge your batteries and let your mind escape the hamster wheel of trying to manifest. But those things all stem from trying too hard, right? So I guess that the first thing that I would try to note and see is like if there's what degree of burnout, what degree of frustration and all of that. Like if it's starting to really have an effect on somebody's mental health and well-being, I, of course, will say take a break if you need to. You can always shift your focus and attention back to this later. I mean, there's you can always come back to your manifestation. You are your imagination is God. But would I ever tell somebody that you can't manifest a person and that they should just give up and move on? No. No, because that's not accurate. That's just not accurate. So I no, detachment is something that we get to naturally. It's not something you can really force people to do. Like it's like trying to tell somebody like, "Oh, just get over it," if they're feeling sad or upset. Like that's it's pointless. So yeah. But I am a huge proponent of, take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, take care of your well-being. If it feels like you are really starting to, unravel, then I would, yeah, take a break. But yeah. Lost my spot. Hang on. Hey, Missy, I manifested my SP as my lovely husband in 5 months. Congrats! I'm extremely happy, but sometimes I fear if something bad happens to him because he has health problems. How can I stop worrying? That is a really good question, Nina. And first, sincerely, congrats. Congrats on the marriage and manifesting your person. That is wonderful. I think it's a normal human habit to worry about, you know, somebody that we care about and their health. I think that kind of goes without saying. What I would do in that scenario is imagine them healthy, imagine them, getting a clean bill of health, whatever that looks like, whether that's confirmation from a doctor, confirmation that they're feeling better, anything like that. But I would imagine, I would see them as healthy and vibrant and somebody full of life and longevity. That would be my go-to. And I would saturate my mind with those scenarios and with those things that, would prove that my person is in fact in good health. Yeah. We don't ideally want to entertain any fears of something bad happening to them. They may pop up from time to time, but if that happens, we just want to take that as, feedback as, hey, this is something that we should redirect our attention from. Instead we should focus on seeing them as healthy and seeing them as in good shape, in good health. Yeah. Hi, Missy. What to do if you can't find motivation to manifest SP? Possibly burnout, definitely losing hope. It's been years of learning / applying, and all things are so much worse now. It feels hard. I am so sorry, Jana. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I know that is such a rough feeling. I've been there personally. If you can't find the motivation to manifest, I mean, I would absolutely, if you're feeling like it's taking a massive hit to your mental health and well-being, I would take a break and I would instead turn my attention to taking care of me. Like if it were me personally, I would put the focus on me and taking care of myself. And in your case, whatever that looks like for you, whatever that entails for you, because it's easy to lose sight of, you know, the fact that this is all us pushed out. We can get stuck in the cycle of trying to manifest for something out there and keeping our focus and attention on that person over there. But it's not about that person over there. There is no one to change but self, right? So as we begin to, really take care of ourselves and put the attention on changing any aspects or stories or things that are no longer ideal or no longer serve us, the SP is the byproduct of that internal shift, of that internal change. So I would put the focus right now on you and making sure that you're taking care of you and doing what you need to do to feel better. And if that means, putting the trying of manifesting that person to bed for a moment, then do that. Let yourself recharge. It kind of goes to the question that I just answered a moment ago. Like, don't lose sight of, at the core of this is about the internal change. This is about us. This is about us and taking care of us. So, and yeah, any sort of indication of burnout, exhaustion, losing motivation. I mean, these are all things that point to exerting too much effort, trying too hard, using too much mental willpower and force. This is not a trying process. It really isn't. So, I mean, first thing I would absolutely recommend is taking care of you. Take care of you. Take a moment to focus on you. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, from San Diego. Yeah, all of California's getting hit. It's wild. How exactly to set intentions? In the Quantum Leap video, you mentioned that before going to sleep, you set the intention to jump. That's a good question. So, how to set intentions? Um, and that could look like different things to different people. For me, if there's I will kind of keep a focus in my mind on something. I will sort of like tap into the feeling of something when I'm setting an intention. If that is a specific place that I want to go, I'll try to get as clear of a mental picture of what that looks like in my imagination. And that's really the long and short of it. Or it can be something as simple as, this is where I'm going to go today. This is where, if there's something specific that you have in mind, just really entertain that in those moments before bed when you're going to be more susceptible for impression. Yeah, but it can look like different things. But for me, that's really just playing with the idea of it, whatever that is, whatever it looks like, whatever it feels like, and just really get myself lost in that. And maybe just a couple minutes of that, and then I'll let it go and go to bed. How long should we imagine every day? Is 20 minutes daily enough? Good question. So how long should we imagine every day? I mean, it's I don't know about a set time limit. Uh, I mean, even 5 minutes a day is better than nothing. If you can even find 5 minutes to let yourself completely entertain this world and this idea, this desired outcome, if you can give yourself even 5 minutes to just suspend all disbelief, all logic, and let yourself completely be immersed in that ideal outcome, whatever that looks like for you, that will suffice. That is enough in and of itself. Like it's really the ability to go in without, with like no holds back, not barring ourselves from getting ourselves completely enthralled in that imaginal act. Like what would this be like if there were no conditions, nothing that could say otherwise, no issues or problems or anything like that? So then let yourself completely suspend all disbelief. And even 5 minutes is enough to leave an impression. But outside of that, the other aspect that we want to make sure we keep in mind is where we are throughout the day to day. So it's not so much enough to, spend 5 or 20 minutes or even an hour in this imaginal act or in this, doing affirmations or whatever that looks like. But then we spend the rest of the day and the rest of the time just chewing on that old story and, you know, m- going over and over in our heads about what they did and, what happened in the past and all the things that we don't want. We don't want to spend the rest of our day just living in our head on loop all the things that we don't want. So, yeah, but if we can give ourselves whatever amount of time feels natural for you, whatever feels comfortable for you, whether that's 5 minutes or an hour, it's going to be better than nothing. Yeah. Oh, love from Japan. Oh, how cool. Thank you for joining. I cannot wait to go to Japan. I once like that my desire, my next thing that I'm gonna be traveling to is Cat Island. Like I need to go to Cat Island. I've been there so many times in imagination. It's just so amazing. Oh, lost my spot. Damn it. Oh, good question. Good question, Adley. Hi, Missy. Why does it sometimes happen that when we give up or accept the failure to get our desire, then after a while we manifest it? I'm sure this happens to all of us. Yeah, yeah, it's actually a very common occurrence. Like somebody gives up or stops trying basically, and then it happens. And I mean, the short answer is detachment. Um, y- Giving up is a form of detachment. And then by detachment, again, I'm going to repeat over and over again, your detachment from that old story. It's detachment from, fears and doubts and all of the things that were sort of keeping us from fully living in the state of the wish fulfilled. So when you sort of give up and accept whatever happens, that is a form of letting go of that old story. You're no longer obsessing about, or you're no longer aware constantly that you don't have this thing, that you're separate from this thing. You drop all of that, which creates the space for everything to unfold for us. So it is irony of ironies, I know, but I mean, that said, it's not the only way to detach. It's not the only way to manifest is by giving up and throwing it all away. No, no. And it's not the preferred way of going about it either. Not at all. But why that happens, basically, because that is when we are finally allowing ourselves to detach from that old story. Yeah. And we're no longer constantly observing the separation of the desire, of the outcome that we want. I attempted to quantum jump to my I am state, practiced twice so far, and felt a weird feeling all over, tingling and warm. Question is, when you jump, do you leave every limiting belief behind? I mean, you can. You absolutely can. Is it depends on where you're jumping to or, what you are jumping into. But yeah, you can. And through so the entire point of the I am meditation is to do just that. It's to, you know, release all of these conditions of you or what you think is you, your self concept, and all of the beliefs and assumptions that are very much attached to this I am, because our true self is unconditioned. Our true self awareness is unconditioned consciousness. It just is. It's not attached to anything. So when we are able to detach from all of these ideas and beliefs and assumptions and really just go back to that expansiveness, go back to that awareness, we can then attach ourselves to something more desirable or something that we would want more instead. So in that instance, yeah, yeah, you could leave all of that behind. Yeah. Hello, do you know something about afterlife through law of assumption point of view? Absolutely, Vanessa. That's a really good question. So, I mean, death, the concept of death, it's not real. We don't die in the sense of we just cease to exist, or we no longer exist. That's an illusion. And I mean, it even goes against the laws of physics. And like, you can't be created or destroyed. You can only change form. But something about the afterlife, yeah, death isn't real. Um, and anyone that or any if you have had a loss in your life, you can be assured that that person is still very much alive in another state, in another reality. Yeah. Thank you, Lena. Did you work on changing your self concept when beginning to use the law? If so, what specifically did you do? And how long until you noticed a significant shift that became solidified? Good question. So when I first stumbled onto the law, uh, the first thing that I did was test it, um, as a way to build faith, and that was something that Neville would repeat all the time. Don't take my word for this. Put it to the test for yourself. Really prove to yourself that this is something that is real. So I did that. So when I first was studying the law and first came across it, it was more testing it. It was more seeing the law in action. And at the time, I was a little bit jaded. So there was a part of me that was almost trying to prove it wrong, um, but I couldn't prove it wrong. So my faith got strong relatively quickly because of that approach. I think if I had just dived in right off the bat and trying to make this radical change, I mean, I'm not going to say I wouldn't have been successful. The law is the law, and if you persist, you will be successful. But it would have, I imagine it would have felt a lot more challenging if I hadn't have already built some of that faith that okay, this is actually showing to be true. There's no way that I could chalk these many things up to coincidence. This is not making any rational sense, but this is happening. This is showing more and more to be a thing. And with that faith, I was then able to really begin to make the applied changes that I wanted to see happen. And when it comes to that part, like the changing of the self concept, that really came down to imagining, right? Really letting myself imagine myself as the person that I wanted to be, that I wanted to experience. And really it was like an exploration of that. Like what would that be like? Like what would that feel like? What would a day in the life, letting myself explore these possibilities and explore these, ideal circumstances that before I would have never given the time of day. I would have never like bothered to imagine what would it be like, and really let myself play in that. I wouldn't have done it. So it did take some getting used to. And that's where I kind of say the imagination is like a muscle and that we're exercising it to strengthen it because at first it can feel weird. It doesn't feel like the most natural thing in the world sometimes when you're imagining yourself as this different person and this different outcome. But yeah, the first thing that I did was, continue to test the law, observe, and start to see the connection between my internal world and the external world. And as that became more and more apparent, my faith went through the roof. And after that, I was better able to suspend a lot of this disbelief and a lot of the noise from that inner critic to really allow myself to play in imagination and really entertain and flesh out these new ideas. And it did come more and more naturally to me. It came more and more naturally because that's sort of what happens as you build your imagination. You build on your imagination. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. And how long did it take? Um, that's a good question. It was a handful of months. It was a handful of months. I can't remember exactly how long, but it was not an overnight thing for sure. It was not overnight. I mean, maybe the better part of a year even. Yeah. I hope that helps. I said and did unforgivable stuff to my SP, and SP said he wanted nothing to do with me. Even had his girlfriend threatening me to ruin my life after I contacted him. How do I get past this? Thank you. I am so sorry, store manager. Um, and I've been there. I absolutely said and did terrible things. And then my SP said the same thing. He wanted nothing to do with me. So I have actually been there, very much so. And I know that it can feel incredibly defeating when we see these circumstances unfold, when this is the kind of interactions that we are coming to face with. I mean, the first thing that I would do, and this is always the first course of action, is revision, revising the things that you may have said or done in the heat of a moment when you were upset. Revising those instances and like scrubbing them out of your mind, right? Um, and then yeah, first and foremost, I'd be doing that. And then I think the second thing to always remember and keep in mind is that no matter what, no matter what, no matter what the circumstances look like, no matter who said what, none of that matters. Because in each moment to moment, there is a completely brand new slate. Truly. Like we do not have to continue to, you know, paint on this canvas over and over the thing that we don't want. It is in every moment a brand new slate. It doesn't matter what happened 5 minutes ago, 5 months ago, 5 years ago, who said what. None of that. None of that. We can drop the notion that any of that is going to, have any power over us or make any significant difference in and of itself, because it truly will not make it so that you can't do this. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And I'm walking proof. My SP wanted nothing to do with me. He was done with me. And he made that very clear and apparent many times. Doesn't matter. You can absolutely still manifest anything that you want. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Jay Green. When I test the law, oh, this is a good question, Jay Green. Thank you. When I test the law and I manifest all things, how do I change the belief that it only works for some things but not for everything? Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much again for the super chat. So, how do we change the belief that this works for everything and not just for select things? And that's a fantastic question. I know I entertained that at one point, specifically thinking just that. Uh, well, and there gets to be a point where I think the simplest answer, the shortest answer I can give is observation. Like, not just testing in the sense of, you know, intending something small and insignificant to happen and see it happen, but observation of what we are doing in our day to day and really seeing the law playing out in real time, like really starting to take note of things that we are entertaining, thoughts that are maybe consistently coming up for us, and the 3D outcomes. And you're going to see that there is correlations there. You're gonna always see the connection between what you are imagining and what is playing out in the 3D constantly. And there gets to be a point where you just are not able to chalk all of this up to coincidence or say that the law is selective and it only works for this one thing or these few things, but not for everything, right? Because that wouldn't even be a law. But you will start to see it. You will. The more that you become observant in your day to day, just without even trying to manifest, just what we are already doing, like you're gonna take note. You're gonna see it. That alone is gonna be continue to build your faith, and you're going to then be able to as you build upon your imagination, as you imagine more and more, as you get more familiar with your imaginal world versus the 3D world, you're going to start seeing more and more things playing out in areas that you would have never thought possible before. Like it's the natural expansion and progression of this journey. It is par for the course. It may be now that you think that the law is selective, but you will come to find that that is absolutely not true. It's just not. These are really good questions today so far. All right. Sorry, I lost my spot again. Um, Hi, Missy. Any tips on how to not lose momentum when there's been such a long period of no visible movement? Still on the SP journey, and I feel like a completely new person, plus better state. Oh, was there a part two to that? Oh, today I feel very sluggish and deflated with it all. Haven't felt like this in weeks. My state has been amazing in this deep knowing and excited phase, but today it's left me. Have I gone backwards? So, how to keep momentum going if it feels like you may have fallen backwards or fallen out of that state temporarily. Um, I mean, if you fall out of a state, that doesn't, I mean, we don't need to worry. So we can move right back into it. We can move right back into it. Um, I don't know if anything, I don't know if there was anything that was upsetting, if you had a reaction to something in the 3D, or if this seemingly came out of nowhere. But I mean, either way, if you, I mean, first know that even if you do fall out of that Sabbath, that's okay. You can move right back into that state of the wish fulfilled. But the first thing that I would do, if you are feeling sluggish, if you're feeling like I wouldn't press or try to force yourself through that. Again, if you need to take a moment to just clear your mind, take care of you, recharge your batteries, then do so. If you need to take a moment to just focus on you and whatever that looks like, to giving you what you need in imagination, do that. But what we can do is continue to just be observant. Be observant with, again, the 3D and the internal world and what's going on within us. I mean, that you will move yourself back. There are times where we fall out of that state. We fall out of the Sabbath. That happens. It's not. It doesn't mean you destroyed it. It doesn't mean that it's not possible. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get yourself back there. None of that is true. I'd say right now, just be very gentle with yourself. Be very kind to yourself. If you are feeling tired, give yourself the space and the grace to recharge. Yeah. And once you are feeling better, once you are feeling not so burned out or exhausted, once you feel like you've got some spring in your step again, so to speak, you can always move right back in. This did not just ruin everything that you've been doing, I promise. Hi, Missy. Best way to manifest by a certain date? Good question. So, manifesting by a certain, like on a deadline or by a specific date, is it possible? Absolutely. Um, but what tends to happen for a lot of people is as that date gets closer, we tend to get anxious and fixate on it's not happening yet. Is it going to happen by this date? And start entertaining all of these fears and doubts. I'd say the best way to start being able to manifest on a timeline or by a deadline is first and foremost, build your faith. Keep building your faith in the law. Because if you have full conviction in the law, if you know for a fact that what you imagine becomes your reality and that whatever you can impress will become your experience, um, nothing can knock you off course. So if you set the intention, if you set that, if you imagine that this outcome happens by this date, you can impress it and drop it, and you won't be double-minded about it. It's the double-mindedness that creates time lags and delays. But you suspend that, you get rid of that by faith in the law. So that would be my 2 cents. And again, not to say that it isn't possible. It absolutely is. But if you're noticing anxiousness coming up as the day gets closer, if you're noticing double-mindedness coming up, then these are all things to take note of, right? This means that we are not fully buying that pearl, as Neville would say. We have not fully bought the pearl of great price, and that's an important one. So the best way to manifest by a certain date, like, continue to build your faith. Then you can set the intention, you can imagine that, and you can drop it, having full faith that it will come. It will come. Does the imagination have to be literal, or can it also be a metaphor? For example, I see myself glowing with radiant light. That's a metaphor for what I want. Does it work? Sorry if that doesn't. No, that makes absolute sense. That makes absolute sense, Chi-Chan. Yes, you can absolutely imagine yourself as radiant. You can imagine yourself as, that's what I did for my physical health. I imagined myself as like this beautiful flowing goddess and just glowing with health and radiance. And that didn't mean that I literally wanted to walk around glowing like I was radioactive or something, but I felt in those moments when I would imagine myself like that, I felt stronger. I felt more just like abundance, and not wealth abundance, but just life abundance. It really helped me to really sear that impression in my mind. So yeah, you can absolutely use your imagination in that sense, 100%. How can we really live in the feeling of accomplishment when we really don't know how that feeling feels like? Good question. Good question. And I think that goes to the broader question of how can we live in the end of something that we don't know or that we have not felt before? Um, yeah, if we don't know what something feels like or is like, how can we imagine that? How can we feel that? And I mean, the answer to that is everything already exists in imagination. There is already that version of us that is accomplished, that feels that satisfaction, and then that state of accomplishment. That's already a thing that exists. This is sort of tapping into more creative imagination, versus kind of the day-to-day imagination that we typically stick to. What we typically imagine for most people are things that we already know and are familiar with, but that does not mean that we cannot go outside of those lines and outside of those boundaries. For example, if you wanted to tap into that feeling of accomplishment. Okay, well, start to build a picture of what that looks like for you. And then this is always why I say just start with the question of what would this be like? And start to fill in the blanks of that. Start to really flesh out, and really get into the nooks and corners of what that looks like for you. Is that starting a new business? Is that reaching a certain threshold in said business? Is that, reaching X goal? Is that hiring staff? Is that traveling the world? Is that like start to entertain these scenarios and then let yourself continue to build upon them. And what you're going to find is the feeling is going to naturally start to build up for you. Like as you really begin to entertain these things, right? But like first we need to get very clear on what that looks like and what that is. Um, and again, it kind of like being as descriptive as possible. And even what I just did there with building upon, right? You're going to start to naturally get the sense, and it may not be like the most overpowering feeling in the world at first. It may start very subtle, or maybe even not at all. Like when we first start going into imagination, there may not be a feeling associated yet. That's okay. That's okay. That's, I come back to the phrase exercising. This is just exercising that imagination. But the more and more that you become familiar with that place in your mind, you're gonna start to resonate with what that feels like, even if you haven't experienced it yet in the 3D. I manifested my ex back for the first time easily, but difficulty to manifest after second breakup. Why is that so? Um, Questioning ourselves. Um, Typically speaking, it's we second guess ourselves, feeling like we did something wrong, and maybe we need to, like trying to figure out what we did wrong the first, like, why was it that they came back the first time so easily? But now it's not seeing movement. Like we can get caught up in our mind really easy, um, and just begin to second guess ourselves. And really that's double-mindedness. So um, yeah, that's typically speaking why that happens. Why it can seem like it's harder to manifest them back the second time, because the feeling or fear is that you did something wrong the first time around. So you kind of spend time spinning your wheels. Um, but that doesn't need to be the case. That doesn't need to be the case. Whatever you did that first time. I mean, first I would revise. I would revise that, anything that happened that was unwanted. And then I would continue to go back just as you did the first time. Um, and you may need to go back 70 times 7, as Neville would say. But typically it's because we second guess ourselves. Yeah. Um, what can it mean if your manifestation ability has just apparently vanished? What can it mean if your ability has So what does it mean if your ability to manifest has just apparently vanished? I mean, I assure you it hasn't, because we're always manifesting. If you can kind of expand on that a little bit, John? You mean your ability to visualize, your ability to um, suspend disbelief? Mm, kind of expand on that a little bit. Oh, Bree's got a good question. Hi, Missy. I was wondering, what's your opinion on tarot and oracle cards or divination tools in general being used in relation to manifestation? Do they help, or do they just cause more stress in the process? What are my thoughts on tarot and oracle cards? Um, Unnecessary. They're unnecessary. There's been a I guess there's been a trend of people using tarot cards or oracle cards to try to see the state that they're living in, to try to find the state that they're occupying. Um, there's a much more effective way of finding your state, finding the dominant state that you occupy, and that's self observation. By observing your natural thoughts, your natural reactions, the natural feelings that come up in your day to day, those are going to be your indications that will show you, without question, what state that you are occupying, and which, more often than not, what state you frequently return to as your home base, so to speak. We don't need tarot cards, and I mean, at best, it's unnecessary. At worst, it's continuing to condition us to look to the 3D for clues or confirmations of things, and then that's the kind of that's what we're trying to get ourselves out of the habit of doing. So I mean, I get that they're fun, and I understand, especially in a moment of desperation, wanting to get some kind of answer or figure out what the hell's going on here. But it's no, it's not accurate, and it can't tell you anything that you won't get through observation. Just the self observation, just the critical, non judgmental look at the self will tell you everything you need to know. So we we don't need it. How can I help my friend get through her old story? It took a big toll on her, and although she doesn't want her SP, she cannot let go of the idea that everything happened was her fault. Oh, I'm so sorry, Jade. Um, so when it comes to manifesting for others, I mean, we absolutely can and we absolutely should, whenever able. I think it's incredibly kind of you to want to imagine for your friend, and really, you know, I would imagine anything that would imply healing or resolution or her getting to a place of, if in this case she does not want reconciliation with that person and she just wants to be at peace with herself, I would imagine that conversation being had. And I would see her as, somebody who is really at a place where they feel that they've got the closure that they need and the ability to move forward, whatever that looks like. But I would play that conversation. I would imagine that in my mind and really kind of get that picture as fleshed out as possible, and then drop it. And then drop it and see what unfolds. Now, if you notice yourself second guessing or questioning, or if you're noticing a lot of the 3D still showing up in the same way, you can come back to that and imagine it again. Yeah. But manifesting for others is absolutely, I mean, it's not only possible, but it's something we should do. Can we give up too early before impressing the subconscious? I really struggle to do techniques and get rid of the old story. Maybe a break, but actually constantly feeling the lack of the thing. Um, so can we give up too early before? Yes, yeah, and in fact, for for a lot of people, and myself was included, yeah, giving up too soon um, is definitely a thing that happens. Because it may take getting, like, we may need to return to that imaginal act or continue to use, even if that's affirmations, whatever resonates with you the most, whatever technique helps you to feel that state of the wish fulfilled the most, returning to that as many times. We are creatures of habit. That is very much a thing. So yes, we do tend to sort of like throw in the towel on something too soon. That can happen, as difficult that is. But that said, if you are really finding yourself struggling, if this has really been a struggle for you, I would absolutely just like give yourself a moment to decompress and recharge. Like we don't want to keep trying to like force ourselves, like push on, push on, push on. That's not going to help us in the long run. It just won't. Um, yeah. And a lot of the times it is the application of the techniques and how we're applying them. Like, for example, things like SATs or revision, even affirmations, when we do them, we're coming at it with a lot of forcing, a lot of trying to force ourselves to feel the state of the wish fulfilled, and it doesn't quite work like that. So a lot of the times we struggle because the way that we are applying these techniques or the way that we're applying these exercises are not incredibly beneficial. So, but yeah, if you find yourself needing to take a moment for yourself, then do so. Like you can always come right back to this. You can always come right back to this. Much love from Belgium. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Santa. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Mohammed. I had someone tell me they had a dream about SP and I together with her at her place in Australia yesterday. That's amazing, Robin. That's amazing. Keep going. Hell yeah. I love the playing and imagination and haven't been doing it. Maybe time to get back to playing. I can confirm that all the testing is what made me have true faith. Absolutely. Yeah, the best way to describe it is almost like when we were kids. It when I talk about playing in imagination, the feeling is very much akin to what we did when we were children, and we sort of lost that art as we got older. It was kind of frowned upon. Most societies tell you got to grow up and join the real world, um, but it is very much like what that complete suspension of disbelief and just letting yourself play in imagination. And it feels like play. It should feel relaxing. If it doesn't feel relaxing, then we're trying too hard, basically. But yeah, surely I tell you, unless you become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Hi, Missy. What do you suggest to do if I am manifesting my SP back for 8 months and I was working on myself really hard and focusing on self concept, but now my SP told me they are happy with third party? I'm so sorry. So what do you suggest to do if it's been 8 months? When you say working on self concept, you're working on yourself. Like, what do you mean by that? Because again, I'm noticing that means different things for different people. Um, but now my SP told me that. So okay, self-concept is not the same thing as self-esteem. So if we are just focusing on, I'm loved, I'm beautiful, I'm chosen, I'm this, I'm that. Don't get me wrong, that's an important aspect of self-concept, but it is just one aspect, right? So what are we also entertaining when it comes to the story of this person? Like, what is the general story around our specific person? What are the first thoughts and reactions and feelings when we think about that person? Because I mean, we can have incredible self-esteem but still have an unwanted story when it comes to this person. So have you still been entertaining fears about them? Have you still been entertaining bad memories about them, things that they said in the past that were not ideal? uh, because these are absolutely things that we want to be aware of and revise or redirect from. So when we say working on self-concept, that is also including the story with SP. And I mean, this what they assume about what we assume that they assume about us, what we assume that they assume in general. Like what is the story around this other person? And is that lining up with your ideal or not? That is something that we want to make sure that we're not overlooking. Yeah. It's easy to, and again, self-esteem is important. I don't want to dismiss that or seem like it's not a big deal, but we can have amazing self-esteem and still have a terrible story about this other person. So we want to be mindful of that. I'm still a bit confused because giving up on our desire will put us out of the state of the wish fulfilled, but then after a while it manifests. So, well, when giving up, it's that we're no longer fixated on the fact that it's not here. We're no longer fixated on the thing that we don't want, which creates the space for things to unfold for you. So basically, when you imagine something and you feel into it, if you impress that desired outcome, it's already setting in motion. Like it's immediate movement to that state. Awareness is going to, whatever that looks like, awareness is going to take you from where you are to that desired outcome. What happens is when we're double-minded, we sort of delay the process. But you can almost think of it like punching something into a GPS. Like subconscious impression is like setting it into the GPS. Like it's going to take you there unless we detour. And double-mindedness is taking a detour, basically. And it's probably the simplest way to put it. So when you're dropping all this old story and you're just like, you know what, I'm walking away from this, you're removing all the detours and the toll roads and all of the things that were sort of creating, I don't know what you want to call it, making things more of a challenge than they needed to be. Like you're removing the attachment and the awareness of not having it and all the things that you don't want. So yeah, that's typically why that's such a it is a phenomenon that happens. Like when we stop trying and give up, we're no longer double-minded. So I hope that makes sense. And the state of the wish fulfilled might not feel like it might just feel normal. It's not necessarily the state of like total euphoria. And I think that's something that a lot of people presume that it feels like. The state of the wish fulfilled feels pretty natural when we have imagined it and really like put ourselves there enough. It feels natural. So it could feel totally normal, right? But yeah, I hope that helped to clear up a little bit with the detour and all that. Or maybe I just made things more confusing. Can you explain briefly how to revise? I go back to that situation, revise, but I still feel it's there. How do you do that? Good question, Strawberry. I have made a few videos about revision. If you have not checked those out already, I definitely would. I try to break down in detail this process and what that looks like. I guess the step by step. If you go to the search bar on YouTube and just type in Missy Renee revision, those should pop up for you. But if you notice that you're going back to that old story, that's not uncommon, especially at first. We may need to revise something a handful of times before it really begins to like dissipate, so to speak. But yeah, I would check out the videos where I do go into more detail about revision. I need a specific amount of money. However, I have a belief that money only comes from work and I can only have a part-time job. How to overcome it? That's a good question. And I think that's a common belief for a lot of people. I certainly had the belief for a long time that you need to work really hard for money. That is one that a lot of people share. A lot of people have that sentiment. It's passed down from our parents and their parents and their parents before them. The first thing that you want to do is start to challenge these beliefs. I mean, first, I would, if you can create or construct an imaginal act of what total freedom looks like for you, of what abundance looks like for you, do that, right? What that feels like, what that looks like. Is that, traveling around the world? Is that starting up your own business? Is that, get clear on that. But another part of it is challenging these limiting beliefs. And you can easily challenge the notion that you have to work hard for money because passive income is a thing. Like you can literally make passive income, which is the exact opposite of working hard for money. Like people literally make money in their sleep. So the fact that these concepts and ideas exist completely, like it completely dismisses the whole idea that we have to work hard for money. And so it's challenging these ideas. It's challenging these notions because, quite frankly, if that were true, then passive income couldn't be a thing. It wouldn't exist. It couldn't exist. So, yeah. One thing that I also did and really got into was I would find where certain beliefs stem from, like very common limiting beliefs, like where they would stem from, and just because it has a history. So you can start to get a better idea of how this thing even came to be, and you can better start to see it as something that is not actually legitimate or real. But yeah. Yeah, I would challenge that belief. Yeah. And I have challenged that belief actually. Um, Thank you, thank you, thank you. SB told me he had dreams of him being married to me and added he is very intuitive. I'd like to believe he actually had those dreams. Can I create that actually happen, whether it's true or not? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you can create anything. You can create anything, whether it's true or not true. I mean that's if you can imagine it, if you can like see it in imagination, if you can even like outline it or have the idea of it in your imagination, you can experience it. Absolutely. How to make sure that your scene implies that your situation will last. I want to be an actress, but so far I have only manifested some roles here and there, not a full-time career. Thank you. That's a good question, Maureen. That is a really good question. So how to imply that create a scene that implies that your ideal outcome is going to last. And yeah, I think that's something that we we all would want to make sure of. And one thing that you can do is see yourself many years in the future as somebody who has been consistently acting in roles, somebody who has been doing this for a long time. That is one way you can do it. That's one way you can go about it. Like see yourself X amount of years in the future, talking to somebody or reminiscing on how many roles you've had and how grateful that you are that you've been able to make this your career, that you've been able to make this that's something that you do full time. Um, Another thing about maintaining that state of the wish fulfilled is just knowing that so long as we continue to go back to that state, so long as we continue to go back in imagination and excuse me, keep going back to what that ideal outcome is, the more that you do that, you're going to start to naturally do it. Like you're not going to even have to do it consciously anymore. You're just going to do it. You're just going to continue to go back to that. That becomes sort of like your home base. That becomes your foundation, so to speak. So, yeah. So how do we make sure that our situation lasts? How do we maintain it? Continue to go back there. But if you wanted to create a scene that implies that, you can absolutely create a scene that puts you X amount of years in the future. You're thinking from somewhere several years in the future and, you know, maybe feeling gratitude and expressing feeling blessed for having made this a full-time career. Yeah. I often find myself panicking whenever I imagine my SP and I back in contact, even though that's what I want. This yucky feeling doesn't go away. How do I get past feeling so anxious and nervous? That's a good question. So if you find yourself feeling anxious in your imaginal acts when it comes to you and your SP, or I mean anything for that matter, if the feeling is anxiousness, if it's not ideal, I would see maybe do some exploration as to why that is. Um, maybe do some reflecting and get clarity on why is that. Uh, More often than not, it's because of a story. It's a story. There's a story there that does not feel comfortable or good. And if that's the case, I would definitely revise said story. Yeah. Thank you, Sina. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you. Ooh, whoops. 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 How long do you spend in a SAT session? Just roughly. 5 minutes, 15, 30, or longer. So how long do I spend in SATs? Uh, mm, that is really difficult to pinpoint. Sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes an hour. If I had to guess, time's weird because sometimes it can feel like 5 minutes and it's been much longer. Sometimes it feels like an hour and it's been 5 minutes. Typically speaking, my daily routine is 1 hour of meditation in the morning, 1 hour of meditation in the evening. And in those times when I am in meditation, sometimes I will have visual scenes come to me. Sometimes it'll be a very visceral scene. Sometimes it is more general feeling. It really depends. So um, I'd say, whatever comes naturally for you. If that's at first only a couple of minutes, you can expand on that. You can build on that. Um, but yeah, it's really hard to say. Can you talk more about how you got rid of your crazy internal shit? How to find all memories to revise and where to start with a huge mountain? That's a really good question, FM. And I'm sorry I missed that earlier. Again, the chat jumps around a lot. I really try not to skip over anyone. It's not intentional. How I got rid of my crazy internal shit. Uh, so how to find all the memories to revise. So I think the first thing to know, we don't have to revise every single memory that we have. If we approach it like that, yes, it's going to feel incredibly daunting, and we may not even start because it feels like there's just too much here, and we get overwhelmed and don't even try it. I'd say to start, it can even be the last thing that you can recall that was not ideal, whatever that looks like. And however long ago that was, if it was, just a few days ago, if it was yesterday, if there was a conflict with somebody, if there was an argument, or you wanted something that you didn't get, I would just start there, just revising something that maybe is fresh in your mind still. Um, and you can always kind of build on that. When it comes to like the long-term past and revising memories from the past, I you if you don't recall certain memories, if you don't have recollection of where something stemmed from or what happened, you can always go in and imagine something new instead. You can essentially create a new memory. You can imagine a different state or outcome. And so, like, instead of this terrible thing that happened, I'm going to imagine this more ideal outcome instead because this feels nicer. This is what I would have rather had happened. Right. Um, so yeah, if we don't recall every single thing, that's fine. We're not going to at first. Um, but when it feels like you have a huge mountain and you want to know where to start, start with, the most recent thing that you can recall that was not ideal. And you can kind of build from there. And then you can go back to if there's, for example, a specific person that you're trying to manifest. If, you can, if there's a major event that happened there that was not ideal, then you can revise that. Right. So I guess it's kind of I know it feels difficult to break this down into bite-sized pieces, but if we can start somewhere, even if it's small or smaller, just to kind of get us into the practice of doing it. Because if we feel like there's all this stuff we gotta revise, we gotta change, we gotta fix, we gotta do this, it can be difficult to even get started because we are creating such an overwhelming scenario for ourselves. So, starting small, starting somewhere. That is key. I have issues with visualizing. When I'm trying to use my imagination, I don't see it clearly. I don't see anything but black, and I want to see the pictures, but I just don't. Will that ruin the outcome? No, no. You don't have to see it. Even if you have the idea of it, if you're trying to use sats or imagine something, even just the outline or the idea of it is sufficient. As long as you know what it is that you are imagining, which that's plenty enough. Um, because yeah, visualizing comes very naturally for some people, and for others, it does not. I was terrible at visualizing when I started. I was the same. I couldn't see anything except black, and sometimes I could get fuzziness, but that was about it. Um, yeah, do not be discouraged. That is normal. And it will become clearer and more natural with practice. It will. Hello, no diggity. Yes, Maria. Oh my god, I am so looking forward to talking to you, girl. So looking forward to talking to you. Lots to discuss. After an incredible SAT session, I revised a block and feel more neutral and relieved than I ever have. I feel I don't need to do any more SATs. Is this sufficient in your experience? Yes. Yes, Ashley Marie, that's amazing. Yes. Yes. That's what and we will inevitably get to a place like that. It that relief, that experience of like I like it's gone. Like we just vanquished this thing. And then we feel like there's nothing left to do. Yeah, that's totally normal. That's totally normal. And it is more than sufficient. Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful to hear, Ashley. Yay. It is the facts of life that set up the roadblocks. The yes buts. David Gibson, that is truer words have never been spoken. Yeah. Yeah. The facts of life, the yes but um yeah, those are the roadblocks for sure. For sure. I'm trying to go back to see if there was ones that I missed, guys. Hold on one second. Da, 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 da. I was changing I was changing a story about my SP, but as well, but maybe not enough. But when I affirm for my SP, there's some resistance and I start to feel anxious. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot that you can tell by your reactions. Your reactions can help you gauge where you are, like what you are identifying with and what you are attached to. So if you notice when doing affirmations or imaginal acts that there is resistance to it, you start to feel anxious about the idea of what you desire, there's still a story there. There's still attachment to something that is not ideal. And that's kind of how we know where we are, like what state we dwell in or what state we occupy the most, um, what we resonate with. So yeah. If you notice that, that's kind of what gives you indication of, what you want to imagine, what you want to really put your focus and attention on. If there's still anxiousness around this old story with your person or anxiousness about the thought of this person, that does indicate that there's still attachment to that old story. So I would work on detachment from that for sure. Can you make a video on how to be assured that the subconscious has been impressed? Or you can answer here. How to be assured that the seed is planted, basically. Um, you'll know kind of again based on our reactions, based on how we feel. It will be a feeling of relief or satisfaction. It will be a feeling of assurance. It will be a feeling of just natural, that this desired outcome, this idea that we want to see manifest will begin to feel more and more realistic. It'll start to feel more and more natural to us. Those are, I guess, ways to tell. There's a lot that we can gauge based on our reactions and the feelings that we have in regards to our person or this old story and things of that nature. Um, yeah. I thought meditation was to look deeper into our soul. Should I allow imagination? I'm confused. So there's many different types of meditation. Many different types of meditation. So when I talk about my routine, what I do, it starts in meditation, like getting myself deeply relaxed, getting myself, kind of shutting out the 3D, so to speak, is more of what I mean. Um, it's not so much that we need to completely clear our minds or like not have a single thought enter or anything like that. I mean that again, there's many different types of meditation. But when I start and I get myself relaxed and I get myself into more of a sleepy, relaxed like state, that is where I have, the ability to really explore this world of imagination without the 3D circumstances being all up in my face. Yeah. But it is a great segue. And meditation is a great practice for this journey, for conscious creation. It is going to be so helpful. So if there's those of you here that are not really into meditation or it's not your thing, I would start introducing that just bit by bit. Even 30 seconds of meditation, just getting us started, it's going to help. There's so many benefits, and when it comes to conscious creation, it's going to be a game changer. Thank you, David. Thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Uh-oh, is my audio skipping? Oh, no. Is everybody able to hear me okay? Yeah, if my audio is an issue, let me know, guys. Hopefully not. If nothing dies, is it possible to meet someone that I think is dead, that I've never met before, but I admired his work as an actor? Can I meet him in my reality, but in another state? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything is possible. Like, literally anything. If you can imagine it, you can experience it. Um, as something that as some things have changed in my life, I'm becoming extra aware that I'm single. It's becoming harder to ignore this fact. How to stop dwelling here when it's daily reality? So, one of the aims that we're trying to do here is shut out the 3D. We're getting ourselves into a practice to help us not be so attached to the 3D and what's happening in the 3D and all of that. It's, getting ourselves instead to turn within and turn within. That's kind of what we want to ideally do. The entire point of this practice is to build up to that. So, because if you're becoming aware of something, if you are, if there's things in your awareness, like the idea that you're single, or anything that is unwanted, I mean that is what is going to continue to play out, right? So to remove that from our awareness, we move like we turn within in imagination. We shut out the 3D. Now, again, this is a practice. This is a practice. This is a practice because we have always been so attached to the 3D. That's just how we have always lived our lives. But the entire aim and point of all of this is to retract from the facts of the 3D, that because they're not facts, they're just the expression of things that we have impressed. They're the expressions of seeds that we have planted in our mind. That's all. That's all. So this is about becoming acclimated with the internal world. This is about going within in imagination and shutting out the facts of the 3D and continuing to do that until it becomes much more natural for us. Because at first, it's probably not going to be natural for us. We're not used to doing it. Yeah. But you stop dwelling in this 3D reality by turning within. Audio's fine? Good, good, good. Okay. All right. Oh, crap. I got time for maybe one or two more questions, guys. I am so sorry. Days are flying by. Hours are flying by. Did I miss something? Hang on. Sorry, guys. I noticed that. I noticed that minor inconveniences are kind of coming up more often, but every inconvenience, a good thing happens after. What would this mean in terms of manifesting, revolving around my desires? So you're aware that minor inconveniences are coming up, but that after every inconvenience, something good happens, something ideal happens, if I'm understanding correctly. What does this mean in terms of manifesting? I mean, I guess I'm a little confused by that. What it means in terms of manifesting is the state that you are occupying. Um, if the presumption or what you are aware of is that inconveniences inconveniences happen before something ideal, then it would mean that an inconvenience needs to happen before something ideal can happen, right? So it's kind of the presumption there that if something happens that is not great, it is followed by something that is great. So if we then want something great to happen, we need to have an inconvenience first. If that's sort of the condition that we're putting on it, if that makes sense. So basically, I would remove the condition or idea that, you know, inconveniences equal good things that happen after, if that makes sense. Um, yeah, just strip all that away and instead go to good things are always happening. Ideal things are always unfolding for me. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Ashley Marie. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for everything. You have the best live streams. They are so appreciated and so helpful. You are so welcome. Oh my god, thank you. Um, Most effective way to use meditation for manifesting an SP. So that might be I don't wanna say there's, like, one full swoop effective way of doing it. It's about finding ways that feel more natural or resonate more with you. For a lot of people, that could be a guided meditation. It could be something that is sort of, like, walking you through that desired outcome as you are in meditation. Um, that's a really popular way. Another way is to just kind of start with a focused attention. So keeping our focused on like the physical sensation of the breath. When our mind starts to wander, you redirect it. And this is kind of to help like tame the mind as you're going into meditation. So you're not all over the place. And wait for your mind to sort of settle in before jumping into that imaginal act with SP. But play around with different things and see what resonates because it really is going to be a little bit different for everybody. But so long as you're able to capture that feeling, you're in good shape. You're in good shape. And even if you don't right away, even if there is no feeling associated at first, like with the continuation, you will get there. You will. You will. How much time were you giving to your imaginal scenes when you were manifesting your relationship with your SP? How much time were you giving your imaginal scenes? So the scene where we were in Santa Monica on the pier, I know I did that for about 2 weeks, give or take, maybe a little less, somewhere in there. Um, I imagined it a couple times throughout the day. So sometimes it would be just, you know, a minute or 2 here, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. It was something that I would just keep coming back to because it felt good, because it felt really good to do it. Um, and so I just kept letting myself go back there. Yeah. David, you are such a gem. You are such a gem of a human being. Thank you. Thank you for your kindness, your encouragement. You are incredible. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Um, give me a moment. Sorry guys, one sec. I'm doing the list method and things, even stupid simple things aren't manifesting. I just don't get why. Yeah, that is a common annoyance that a lot of people deal with the list method. Why are we not seeing things, even stupid little things? Why are we not seeing them come to pass when there's no attachment to these little things? And I mean, really, what's going on there? Well, A, are you giving things enough time to unfold? Are you dropping it and letting it go, or are you constantly coming back to the fact that it hasn't manifested yet? Is one. And number two, it's not that the things itself, it's not that we grow attachment to the things themselves, those small things that we're testing, but we get very attached to the idea of it. Like I need these things to show up to prove it to myself that this is real, that this, that manifestation works or whatever. Um, what we aim to do with lists and those methods, it really is, set it and forget it, like drop it completely. Um, and don't give yourself a time frame as to like if it doesn't show up in this amount of time, it hasn't worked. Um, yeah, that can be a trap that we don't want to fall into. But if the list method is been really frustrating for you, I would turn to observation instead, and just for the next 2 weeks, just observe as much as you can, internal and external. And what you're gonna start to see more and more and more are the correlations and the connection between the 2. And for every little thing that you see come to pass that you had imagined, even briefly, even once, document it. Like, start documenting all of the times where you had a thought about something and then something happened that correlated with that. Because what we also tend to do is forget. We forget a lot. So the more that you document every time that you see something on the outside that correlates to something you did on the inside, you're going to see it. You're going to see it. It is inevitable. Oh, goodness. How to detach from the old story correctly? I use many affirmations for changing story and revision as well, but even I revised hundred of times. But even if I revised 100 times, I still remember the old story. Yeah, I mean, for significant things that happened, things that really were upsetting, that were not ideal, and that had quite the impact on us, we may need to revise them quite a few times. Um, if I'm being completely honest. Yeah. I mean, there were things that I had to revise over and over and over again. No joke. Especially like if you consider the impact that it had on us and how much it's, maybe still coming up for us in our day to day. Yeah. It's not going to be the same as this, one off thing that we don't really consider much. But with affirmations and maybe it's different for you, but what's always been most helpful for me when it comes to affirmations is using affirmations that I could resonate with or that help me to tap into that feeling of that new story or that new state. So even just rewording some of the way that we are affirming, wording it in a way that we can sort of get behind a little bit more, that seem maybe a bit more believable or something that feels like we can easier accept this thing may be helpful for you. Because if not, if you're just affirming for the sake of affirming, not that it doesn't work, but it can be more challenging if you know we're just saying things for the sake of saying them. It may not really be doing much for us. So those are just my 2 cents on that. But yeah, I mean, if we're talking something that really really affected us, we may need to revise it a lot. But I can promise you that it's worth it. I can absolutely promise you that it is worth it. You know? You guys are amazing. You guys are so amazing. Thank you so much. All right. Do we need to be specific when trying to bring back a specific person? When I do affirmations, I just use first names. I was introduced to a guy with same name as SP, and he is telling me everything I want to hear from SP. So, yeah, um, yeah. Well, so when imagining, when affirming, we want to make sure that we are um, being very clear. Yes, being very clear on what we want. But this sounds to me like an instance of birds before land, really. Um, that this is something that can unfold. Birds before land can unfold before the desired manifestation unfolds. Basically, you can almost look at it like a bridge incident in a lot of cases. It's not at all a bad thing. I wouldn't be concerned about that. Um, But yeah, maybe I would get maybe more clear or more intentional on exactly, like see that person that you are specifically trying to manifest and go from there. But rest assured, this is not uncommon. Birds before landing. Yep, it's an interesting phenomenon. A lot of times we'll hear the confirmation or thing that we want from somebody else uh, before from our person. It happens a lot. You are so good. Arigato. Thank you. Oh, that reminds me. So before I forget, I do want to answer this question that was left. Um, do you not have to take action? So it's about taking action. Okay, this is good. Do you not have to take action to manifest? Just imagine your outcome and your manifestation will come to you. Thanks so much. So do we need to take action or can we just imagine? I mean, in short, we imagine. There is no need to take action. That said, whatever action needs to happen, we will be inspired. Like if it's us taking the action to get a certain thing or to manifest something specific, if we are inspired to make some kind of movement, we will. Like that will come to us naturally. That will not be through force. Um, so it's important to remember inspired action because what sometimes we can do if we get ourselves too fearful of taking any action, we may suppress anything that we may be supposed to be doing. And what I mean by that is if we have like a hunch or an urge or like if we feel strongly to do something and to go in a certain direction, but we try to ignore it because we're not supposed to take action, that very well could be awareness trying to get you where you need to go. So we just want to we want to be mindful of where is this desire or where is this urge stemming from. If we feel a push to do something, where is that stemming from? If it feels right, if it feels natural, if it feels like something that you just need to do and it feels obvious to you, then do that. If it's stemming from anxiety, fear, doubt, needing the 3D to show you something, then I would not recommend moving on that action. But yeah, we don't need to lift a finger in the sense that whatever needs to happen, we are going to be moved if we need to be moved, or somebody else will be moved to do something. But yeah, it all happens from a place that is not us consciously trying to do something. Yeah, that's an important one. I didn't want to forget. How do we revise the past with SP when they were married and so was I? Plus, there's children involved, but I want to be his top priority. So, African Empire, definitely check out the videos that I made about revision. Is I go into detail about a lot of this stuff and like the breakdown of how to revise, you know, XYZ. If you just go to the search bar, Miss C Renee revision, there's a couple videos that pop up where I do talk in more detail about that. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. It is unfortunately time for me to go and get on with the day. I've got so much more shoveling to do, which is amazing. But I want to thank you guys so much for being here. I absolutely love doing this every Sunday. You guys have been amazing. Good questions so far today. They've been awesome. If I did miss anybody, I am so incredibly sorry. But yeah, y'all have a lovely rest of your Sunday wherever in the world you are. Take care. Much love, and I will see you all very soon. Take care, guys.